Things are getting wild nowadays. If you check the bestseller list on Amazon Books, you will notice something. Children's storybooks are always there. That's why creating children's books has become super popular in the Amazon KDP community. But let's be honest, it hasn't been easy. You need to write an engaging story, hire an illustrator, or spend weeks learning design tools. And sure, in the past couple of years, many publishers have turned to AI for help. But getting consistent characters and polished illustrations, that's been a real headache. Well, Google just dropped something that might change everything. It's called Gemini Storybook. With just a simple description, you can generate a unique, illustrated 10-page children's book complete with read-aloud narration. Pretty incredible, right? But here's the big question. Is this a breakthrough opportunity for KDP creators? Or bad news for self-published children's authors? In this video, I will walk you through how Gemini Storybook works, test its features, and most importantly, show you how it could fit into your Amazon KDP workflow. Alright, so let's actually see how Gemini Storybook works. Getting started is simple. Just head over to gemini.google.com in your browser and sign in with your Google account. Once you are in, you will see the Storybook feature on the left-hand sidebar under Gems. Or if you want, you can just start a new chat and type something like "create a storybook about," and Gemini will know what to do. Now here's what Google says you can do with it. Create a customized picture book for either children or adults, given a topic, an optional target audience age, and an optional art style for the images. So let's try it out with one of Google's own example prompts, for those of you who never touched this before. Let's click this. My 7-year-old doesn't want to sleep over at their grandma's house. Create a storybook to help them cope. Then we just hit submit. And let's see what happens. Okay, in less than a minute, Gemini just created a unique 10-page storybook. Look at these illustrations. The characters and styles are actually consistent, and the text matches perfectly with what we see on the page. Now think about this. Creating a children's storybook with illustrations used to take weeks, maybe months, and cost hundreds of dollars if you had to hire an illustrator. Gemini just did it for free in about 60 seconds. To me, this is a pretty clear signal of how disruptive this technology could be in the children's storybook market, and not just here, but in a lot of creative fields. Let me show you some of the other features real quick. You can make the book full screen by clicking here. You can print the storybook by clicking here, which means you can either print it on paper or save it as a PDF. Now I know what some of you are already thinking. Can I just upload this straight to Amazon KDP and start publishing? Don't worry, we are going to talk about that in just a bit. Another neat feature, each storybook can be shared via public link, perfect for sending to family or friends. And here's something I really like. You can also listen to your storybook inside Gemini. Just click on listen at the top right, and you can choose either a higher pitched or lower pitched voice. Once you click play, narration begins automatically.
Rowan's brave sleepover. Rowan loved many things: building tall towers, chasing butterflies, and especially snuggling with her teddy bear, Barnaby. But there was one thing that made her tummy feel a bit wobbly.
Isn't that amazing? One thing to know, right now you can't edit the text directly on the page. But that doesn't mean you are stuck. You can just ask Gemini to refine or regenerate parts of the story. For example, you can say, make the story funnier, or change the illustration style. Let's try one together. I will type, change the illustration style to a cartoonish illustration style. And here it is. Gemini created a new version with all new images based on that feedback. Now let me show you the change side by side so you can really see the difference. By the way, you can also save any of these images just by right-clicking on them. So, what do you think about the results? Personally, I think it's very cool to be able to switch up an entire story's look in just seconds. For a truly personal touch, you can also upload your own files, photos or drawings for Gemini to use as inspiration for the story and illustrations. I actually made these drawings in one of my previous videos, scanned them, and then turned them into digital art using Adobe Illustrator's generative shape fill feature. If you have been following my channel, you might have seen that video. Now let's do something fun. We are going to make two storybooks with different styles. The car will be a comic book illustration style storybook, and the dinosaur will be a coloring book illustration style storybook. For the car, I will use colored version of my sketch from Adobe Illustrator. For the dinosaur, I will use the raw version for a coloring book. Here is my prompt for the car storybook. Then we just click submit, and Gemini will generate a full storybook based on our custom sketch and style choice. Alright, So I didn't actually specify the illustration style in my prompt. But even so, the car does look like my original drawing, it's blue, and the general shape is recognizable. If you look carefully, though the front side of the car isn't perfectly consistent across every image. That's one of those little things where a better prompt or uploading more pictures of the car from different angles could give even stronger results. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with this outcome. Sure, the image quality isn't exactly print ready if you were planning to publish it professionally, but for reading along with your kids, it's actually pretty good. Alright, now let's move on to the coloring book style storybook. I uploaded my own dinosaur sketch and used this prompt. Okay, so the cover is simple, but I like the illustrations on some pages. They are actually quite funny. Again, it doesn't look exactly like my original sketch, but for a coloring page, it works really well. I also notice the character is fairly consistent across pages, which is impressive given how tricky it can be to generate consistent coloring book characters. And the images match the story text nicely. One tip, if you upload more realistic photos, you can often get even better results. Honestly, this is quite fun. Imagine sharing your travel memories or even your own sketches in a storybook format with your family. Now, here's the big question many of you have been waiting for. Can we use these storybooks for Amazon KDP? Or maybe even make YouTube videos with them and monetize? Let's dive into that next. First, a quick disclaimer. This part is just my personal opinion and not legal advice. First thing first, Amazon KDP rules. Amazon allows AI-generated content, but you are required to disclose it during uploads. That means if the text or illustrations are made by AI, even if you edited them, you need to check that box when you publish. Second, copyright. In the US and many other countries, purely AI-generated content isn't protected by copyright. What that means is, if you take Gemini's output and upload it without any changes, technically you don't own exclusive rights to it. So if someone else publishes the exact same story, there's not much you can do. That's why my advice is, use Gemini as a starting point, not the finished product. Rewrite the text in your own style, edit the illustrations, maybe even mix Gemini's art with your own sketches or stock elements. That way you can add enough human creativity to claim copyright protection. Now let's talk about practical issues. Gemini only makes about 10 pages, while KDP print books require at least 24 pages for paperbacks and usually 32 to 36 for children's picture books. So you need to expand your story. The image resolution right now isn't really professional print quality. It's great for digital sharing or for kids at home, but if you want a polished book, you'll need to clean up or recreate the art in a design tool. Formatting, bleed margins, trim size are things Gemini doesn't handle. You have to export the images and then lay them out properly in Adobe Illustrator, Canva, Affinity Publisher, or even PowerPoint before uploading to KDP. So, is it ready to publish? Not really. In short, I don't recommend using the exact story and images and then uploading them directly to KDP. But is it a fantastic idea generator and a way to prototype your books quickly? Absolutely yes. Now, what about YouTube monetization? This is actually where I personally think Gemini Storybook shines right now. You can screen record the storybook and then add your own narration. You can also use Gemini's built-in voices if you prefer, but in my opinion, adding your own voiceover makes the content much more unique and valuable. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion about whether YouTube might cancel monetization for AI-generated channels after their latest update a month ago. In my opinion, YouTube still allows monetization of content that uses AI tools, including screen recordings. The key, as I see it, is that your channel's content must provide value, be original, and not fall into the repetitious or low-effort category. Therefore, I think simply uploading raw AI output, like these storybooks, likely won't get approved. So the smart way to do this is by turning the Gemini Storybook into your own production. Add your narration, your pacing, maybe even light background music, and it becomes something unique. Again, this is just my personal perspective. I can't guarantee it will work for everyone. So, here's the big picture. This technology is a huge signal and honestly a warning for the children's books category and many others. I really believe that in the near future, fewer people will buy printed children's books because parents will be able to create custom stories for their kids instantly, just like this. That doesn't mean printed books will disappear, but the share of these new technologies will grow year by year. And instead of worrying about it, the smarter move is to adapt. Even using something like Gemini Storybook just for brainstorming ideas or testing which illustration styles resonate better can massively speed up your workflow when you are creating your next book. So don't ignore these tools, leverage them. That's the easiest way to stay ahead. What do you think about this shift? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next video.